Alright, for lesson 19, we are just going to go through the practice problems. The Khan videos don't really cover everything, but they cover quite a bit. For practice problem A, you could pause this right now if you want to do the practice problems first, and then see what the answers are here. Practice problem A says the opposite of 2 squared. That means we're going to take negative 2, and we're going to square it. Negative 2 squared. A negative times a negative gives us a positive. So this is saying the opposite of 2, or negative 2 squared. So we would read this negative 2 squared. Different than this, we wouldn't read this negative 2 squared. We'd say the opposite of 2 squared. So this means the opposite of 2 squared. So we're going to get a different product, because 2 times 2 is 4, so the opposite of that is negative 4. So it might help to say this is negative 2 squared, kind of where we pause makes the difference. The opposite of 2 squared versus the opposite of 2 squared. We could combine those and say what is the opposite of negative 2 squared? And that would mean the opposite of negative 2 times 2. Negative 2 is 4. We would get a negative answer here. Practice problem C. We've got the opposite of 3 squared minus negative 2 squared. Oops. Minus 2 squared. So we start to simplify. This is negative 9 minus negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4, minus 2 times 2 is also positive 4. So negative 13 minus 4 would be negative 17. I just realized looking at the answer I copied the problem wrong. This is going to be correct, but in your book this is a 3, which if you did the problem ahead of time changes your answer to negative 35. So sorry about that. We didn't make a mathematical mistake, but I did make a copying mistake there. On to letter D, the cubed root of negative 64. The only way we can have a negative symbol inside of the radical here, like negative 64, is if this number is odd. So either 3 or 5 or 7, because that tells us, what number times itself this many times equals this number. So you could have the third root of negative 8, because negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, you've got 2 of them cancel out to a positive, but then you got 1 left over, so the answer is negative 8. If this number here outside were ever even, we know that 2 times 2, if we add another 2 here, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So this works, but it could never be, this number could never be negative in here if this is an even number, because they're always going to cancel each other out to positives. Your answer always has to be positive if this number is even. So if this number is a 3, a 5, a 7, a 9, or so on, you could have a negative sign in here, but that's the only way. The only way to do square roots and cube roots and so on is trial and error, so you really just guess. And if your answer is too low, you go higher. So let's see, we just did 3, or we just did 2, and it came out to be 8. So 2 times itself 3 times was 8. So we got to go higher because we need to get to 64. All right, well, let's try 5. 5's not going to be right, but and really we're working with negatives here. Negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5 is, let's see, this is negative 25 times 5 would be negative 125. Well, 2 was too low and 5 was too high, so let's try 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 equals, well, 4 times 4, negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. 16 times negative 4 is negative 64. So our answer is negative 4. So trial and error is really the only way to find roots. Practice problem E. This is saying that negative 3 cubed, so negative 3 times itself 3 times, plus the cubed root of negative 27, which is negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 gives us negative 27. These will simplify to negative 27, plus negative 3 is the same as minus 3, equals negative 30. We're going to skip G and just do F. It's the same type of problem. Oh, sorry. We got to do F, then we'll skip G to go to H. F says the opposite of 3 squared. So the opposite of 3 squared minus the cubed root of 8. What times itself 3 times would give us 8? 2 times 2 times 2 gives us 8. Minus the square root of 16, a nice perfect square here. So the opposite of 9, minus 2, minus 4. Negative 11 minus 4 is going to give us negative 15. And again, looking on the book, getting a little sloppy here. It looks like this was supposed to be negative 8, which makes this negative 2, because negative 2 times itself 3 times gives us 8. So if this is negative 2, this becomes positive 2, and this becomes negative 7 minus 4 for negative 11. So I guess you have to be more careful than me and copy a little more closely. Alright, last but not least. Here we've got to plug in the values before we do the math. It's going to become an order of operations problem once we get the values plugged in. So b squared, b is negative 4, so negative 4 times negative 4 minus 4. A is negative 3. C is negative 5. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. Minus, let's leave the 4 and take care of negative 3 times negative 5. Positive 15. 16 minus 60. 4 times 15 is 60. 60 minus 16 is 44, and the answer is going to be negative 44. So those are the practice problems, minus a couple of my copying mistakes, but the math should still be good.